All right, I wasn't gonna film all of this and taking off this fender, but I'm gonna talk about it on the passenger side. This is a Canadian car, came from Ohio. They also get salt in winter, but you can see that there's a lot of rust going on, especially on the lower portions here. Things that have just been never taken apart before, were painted over. I'll show you what I mean on the passenger side. So if you have a look inside here, I got a set of vice grips on trying to hold the bolts, but all of these panel nuts inside, you can see there, like, they're all gonna snap as soon as you go to take the impact to it, or even a wrench for that matter. They just spin or they snap. So you'll see what I can do on this side to get the passenger fender off. But these ones here in the fender wells, all of these bolts, every single one you see that holds the inner wheel well on, they all just break. You can see how gummed up they are anyway, so I'll try and keep that intact with the fender, pull the whole thing off, up underneath. Yeah, you can see here, it's pretty rusty and not looking so good on any of these front bolts. So see if the vice grips on top work, and if I can get them undone, pull the fender off. We got a fender bolt. Here we are. Hey, we got a fender bolt on this side, inside the door jamb here. On the other side, this whole tab was missing, so didn't see it. So I'll pull that one out, and this fender is going to come away. Front end is off. I've gone ahead and separated all the body bolts from the frame. Now here's a curious thing, about 4 of them were actually not even there. So it had a couple at the front, 2 at the back, all the middle body bolts underneath here were gone. This thing was barely holding on. So goes to show you, you don't trust what other people have done, and it's a good thing that I am taking this apart.
What I ended up doing was raising the car up from the frame as you normally would with the quick jacks. And then you can see underneath, I ran a couple of jack stands with a 2x4 across them. Can you see that? Oh, sorry if it's upside down. And then when I lowered the car down on the quick jacks, that kept the body where it had to be. However, one thing to note on an El Camino, without a front end connected, it is back end heavy. So I had to run a couple of jack stands in the back for now just to support it. There's not a lot of weight on those, so nothing's buckling or anything. So now I gotta figure out how to get the body higher so I can roll the chassis out. All right, we're under the car, and I've got a jack at the back here, the 2x4 lifting up the body so that I can get it more level. And what I'm gonna do now is lower it back down onto this 2x4 just to keep it up in the air a bit, and then I can continue to get the car up bit by bit off this frame. Coming down. There we go. That's better. Get it off those jack stands on the back body, they were just temporary. I've got a body support created that I made out of 4x4s, put it on wheels so I can roll the body out into the driveway. I'm about to get the motor out of the frame. I've got that sold, and right now underneath the car I've dropped the exhaust down, and I'm about to drop the drive shaft so you can have a look underneath. All right, drive shaft is down at the back. Mufflers are sitting on the ground now, and I'm gonna pull the drive shaft out, and then I can pull the motor. There we go. We got it hanging in the air now. Hey, so today's the big day.
got my trailer borrowed from work. I'm going to pick up the frame. It's just been freshly powder coated at Mitchell Ironworks. See you in a bit. Oh yeah, looks pretty good, man. There we go. Well, we made it, and we got a bit wet, but there it is. Back at home. All right, well, we are doing the underside of the car. And what I'm starting out doing here is a heat gun and a putty knife, and that's just going to get off all of the undercoat that I can before I start with the wire wheel. Here we go. All right, here's where I'm at with this underside of the car. And as you can see up here, it's been cleaned off. And this is what was left over, as you can see throughout, kind of remnants of the tar undercoating. I used a heat gun and a scraper to get most of it off, and this is what I'm left with. And not my invention, but I found a guy on the internet that had done this with a blowtorch and then used this Goo Gone Pro Power Goo and Adhesive Remover. So what he was doing was using a blowtorch and heating up the remnant tar, and then he would spray it down with this Goo Gone, almost like a cooling activator, and then steel wool it. And I thought, well, I'll give it a go and just see if I can spray it and see what the Goo Gone itself does. So check this out. No heat applied, right? We've got these ribs here we're gonna do now. So I'm just misting all this on, okay? So just spray it over. And we're gonna let that soak. Let it really get in. Okay, we'll do that area right now. I've got some rusty holes here. I don't really wanna go over those too much. With steel wool, it's just gonna get caught. But anyway, there you go. Liberal amount of Goo Gone. We're gonna let that sit, and I'll be back in a second, and I'll tackle it with a steel wool, and I'll show you what this takes off. Pretty cool stuff. All right, I'm back. It's been about 5 minutes just spraying the Goo Gone. I've got some pretty coarse steel wool. Check this out. I'm gonna just rub it down, and the remnant tar starts to go away. Check this out. Look at that. I can just rub it with steel wool. Get in all the little grooves here. Okay. There we go. Makes a hell of a mess though. Okay, so we'll hold up there just to show you. I've got some paper towel here. Check this out. Right, all I need to do is wipe it down now, and it takes all that off. Check that out. Super clean. And I can go back with a bit more Goo Gone and all these little pieces that I missed, or a little more steel wool, scrub at it. But I'll have this all cleaned off in no time. As I said, it'll all look like this. And then any leftover areas I can start grinding down with a wire wheel, get ready for primer and paint, after I, of course, patch all the holes first. There's the rock piece cut out. This is the underside. So what I've been doing here is just patching in some areas that were all Bondo before. So I've got multiple patches, have purchased a new cross brace. I was attempting to rebuild it, but you know what? Once I found out these were available, it just became the smarter thing to do to put that in. But because I like things to be perfect, if I can make them perfect, I've decided now to make another change. And that is, you can see from the top side, all the patches I've put in. And I could spend time grinding down all these welds, making everything look great, come over, skim it with a light coat of Bondo, make sure everything looks good before paint. But it occurred to me, because you can't get the smuggler's box, you can't get that box cover. You can get them for like the 68s and up, but for 65s, the 67s, they don't make them anymore. But as I'm sitting here with the car on its side, I noticed that the tailgate has this panel, and you can get those quite readily. What I've decided to do is remove the one that I have on here, and I've drawn a line right here down the whole box that I'm going to cut out and put in one solid piece, just to make my life easier. I think it's going to be a lot nicer than trying to deal with all this little stuff. Maybe unnecessary, but like I said, if I can do something right, I'm going to do it that way and just save myself some aggravation. Anyway, that's the plan. I'm going to cut this out and come back around when I'm welding the new one in. All right, and we're back, all cut out. We got a lot of stuff going on here. So I managed to get most of the front out. You can still see how thick the Bondo is here, but I mean, that's as far back as I can go. I'm gonna have to just grind that out, I suppose. I don't want to have to replace the whole bed. You can't get them anyway. So anyway, I got most of the rod out. It was all up in this area here where the salt sits above the frame. Yeah, so it should be a good fix. I think it'll be a stronger patch anyway with the whole piece put in, and I'll run some new cross braces as well. So I'll be putting motorcycles in this car, so I need it to be really strong in the center for sure.